Hello and welcome to another AllMonster.com Monster Truck Podcast. This is episode number 14, and as usual, it is sponsored by absolutely no one and is the most unprofessional professional podcast in the world. As always, I am joined by, or maybe Dustin is joined by me. Either way, Dustin Hart, how are you doing? Where have you been? And what is up, sir?
I've been all over. Things that are up are the amount of air that monster trucks are getting, if you've been watching recent shows. And it's been a busy month since we last did this here podcast thing.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for all of your support, by the way, on the last episode that we talked about Gary Porter and Dennis Anderson retiring. It was nice to read all your comments. I'll probably call back to a few of those as we go throughout, but we have a lot of shows that we want to talk about. Of course, we kind of provide you guys with the sights and the sounds and the experiences of some people that have been through this a lot as far as going to shows and having impressions and thoughts and feelings and such. So, Dustin, you're the one that's been at all the shows. Where do we go from here, man? What do you want to talk about? I'm just kind of going to be the interviewer this time, I think.
First show, if we're going to go in like chronological order, first one out for me in October since we last did the podcast was Benson, North Carolina with the Monster Truck Throwdown crew. Always a fun time with the Monster Truck Throwdown crew. Guaranteed to have plenty of laughs and watch some cool stuff happen. That was certainly the case in Benson. Despite some less than satisfactory weather on Saturday night, still had a pretty good show there. A lot of fun there, as always. I'm kind of repeating myself already. We're off to a good start with this podcast, but one of the things that I took away from the weekend, Brian Wright continues to be an awesome guy, an awesome driver, totally underrated guy behind the wheel. I think he's getting more and more notice as he's getting better and better behind the wheel, but really a top-notch talent, keeps getting better, knows how to really run the truck hard without breaking it too often. Had a little bit of bad luck with some breakage over the course of the weekend in Benson, but still came back and was able to put on strong performances. Unfortunately, lost to Champagne Glass on the last freestyle of the weekend. Cut his efforts just a little bit short, but Brian's still awesome dude, awesome driver. Always enjoy getting to see him run. I'm spoiled a little bit with how much I've gotten to see him run over the last couple of years, and we'll continue to get to see him run this coming season. Another name to talk about, Kurt Phillips. Kurt did a little bit of double duty in Benson, jumping in and out of Lumberjack and the Crustacean, putting on great freestyles in both trucks, both nights. Got cut short a little bit on Saturday night in his freestyle with Crustacean when something in the front end broke. But Kurt's really showing that he's got some talent behind the wheel, looks very comfortable in either truck. Has really driven Lumberjack much harder and much better than some of the other drivers that have been filling the seat. No offense to the other guys, but he just looks to be significantly more comfortable and really getting after it. I mean, he's hitting that truck hard, doing big airs, getting some sweet slap wheelies, which is something you can always expect out of the bottom feeder camp. Just been a lot of fun to watch him drive. I think he's going to be somebody to look at in the future. Depending upon where Greg and company are going to be running over the future, you could see a lot out of Kurt. I mean, he's got some talent there. You can see he's getting better with every show. He's getting more and more comfortable. He's not afraid of the truck. He looks very comfortable in it. So looking forward to see what Kurt can do in the future. Another guy that's very comfortable and running hard, Cory Rummel, Rage. If you've watched him at all over the last couple of seasons, that truck works great, and when it's at 110%, you got to watch out for Cory because he's an animal in freestyle, usually goes very hard. I mean, all you got to do is look back to his freestyle in Oakland this year and see just how hard he runs and just how much that truck can do and take. Cory ran great all weekend in Benson. Broke a right rear off, if I remember correctly, in the Friday night freestyle, but came back and put on another great show Saturday night despite the rain. It was definitely coming down pretty good in Benson on Saturday night, and on top of that pulling track clay, it was kind of an ice skating rink in spots, but everybody really worked hard to put on a good show. Jim Koehler had some bad luck kind of over the course of the whole month, but we'll get into later, but Otherwise, Koehler put on a good show with what he had to work with. The truck fought him in a couple of different ways. He lost front brakes in the truck on Friday night during freestyle, but still ran very well.
Brakes?
Saturday, yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, when you're on a pulling track, they kind of come in handy.
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah.
Regardless, Koehler still ran very good. Typical big air Koehler. Saturday night, the truck was running with a sour motor. Wasn't quite where it needed to be. Just ended up having issues after the wheelie contest. I think he started off his freestyle run on about 7 cylinders, maybe got down to about 6. And that thing sounded like an outboard boat motor, but Koehler was still getting after it, still getting some big air, trying to make do with what he could.
It's funny you mentioned that. For those of you who just got to interject real quickly, you said it sounded like an outboard boat motor. Mr. Koehler is known for working on said engines for vehicles. He works at a marina, if you guys didn't know. So in some ways that could be considered a compliment, but when you say it's a sour motor, that's not good. Koehler knows how to tune an engine, how to make trucks run well. So when Avenger has a problem, it's not going to be for lack of trying.
Oh, absolutely. Koehler's always going to give it his all, and he certainly gave it hell during his freestyle run. But there's only but so much that motor could do. He was able to put on a good show still, and the crowd was still into it. Jamie Garner and Overboard. I mean, we keep talking about Garner. We'll continue to talk about Garner in this podcast as we get further along, but Garner just keeps getting better and better behind the wheel. You can tell he's more and more comfortable. The truck works so good. They've got a great thing together there with that camp and that truck, and really excited to see what they come up with in the future. Garner was pretty strong all weekend. He's been great all summer long on the Throwdown Tour. Another really good pair of freestyle runs from him. Was strong in racing as well. So, Garner just keeps getting better. It's kind of more of the same. So I feel like I'm being repeater Bill, but we'll touch base again with Garner later on in the podcast. And on the other side of the trailer, his fiance, if I can talk clearly, Deidre Ballard had a strong weekend herself. For Deidre, wasn't, I think, quite totally on board with the idea maybe at first of being a full-time driver. She totally I think she wanted to just get into it one time and just kind of say she did it.
Yeah, but see, that's the problem, man. I could speak from actual experience on this one. I'm going to tell you this. And I don't know if they've ever let you fire one up, but once you do, it is powerful than the most powerful drugs you could experience in the world. I will say that much. Like, I got to move Del Scorcho, yeah, there's a shout out, from the pit area to the pit party in Reno, Nevada. Then I moved Del Scorcho back up the tunnel and parked it. That's all I did. And when I hopped out in the pit party, Charlie Pocket was looking right at me, and he goes, with his Chucky grin, that evil grin that you guys know so well if you've seen him after he's had a really good freestyle run and just kicked everybody's ass. He looks at me and he goes, "So, what'd you think?" And I just raised my hand up, and it's shaking like 500 miles an hour. Yeah, that's basically summing up your experience in a monster truck. So anybody that gets a chance and just says, I'll hop in once. And no, you're not. As soon as you get that sniff, as soon as you get a little taste of what you're doing with a monster truck, if you're any kind of adrenaline junkie, you will never, ever want to stop.
Yeah, and for Deidre, I think the first time, she was solid behind the wheel of the truck. I mean, you can see it in the Throwdown for What DVD. She was very solid behind the wheel of the truck, and she spent so much time on the outside of the truck working on it and being a part of the team and just being a fan in general. She doesn't want to go out there and kind of underperform, if you will, to her expectations. And, she continues to get better and better every time she's behind the wheel of the truck. And, for her, it's just getting that confidence and knowing that what she's doing out on the track isn't boring and doesn't totally suck.
Right.
Because I think in her mind, she's still afraid that she's going to go out there and suck. Mm-hmm. But, Deidre did a great job. Much love to you, Deidre. Keep after it. You don't suck. Again, it's just for her. She's got to continue to get comfortable and get some more confidence behind the wheel of the truck. She's doing good, and she's got the best people around her to learn from. So she's going to continue to improve. Looking forward to seeing her get some more shows, likely over the summertime, with some more throwdown events and other independent promoters.
Definitely. Yeah, I like seeing those kind of stories. I like seeing people come up through it, and maybe they didn't have any interest in driving, but once they did, they become passionate about it. And it's really cool to have another husband and wife team kind of get this thing popping. We haven't really seen a lot of those in the industry, and it really is a great and easy marketing ploy too. Hey, the husband and wife, it's a family sport, yada yada. We can get this thing really, really just easy to sell, that a family that is in this industry is going to connect with a family that is in the stands. So I think that's great, and yeah, to your point about a lot of drivers really do value the opinions of people close to the sport. We've had Lee O'Donnell and Barry Musauer talk about their crew chiefs, and that they rely heavily on those guys and gals to be able to be their eyes and their fans, if you will, in a way, and say, hey, yeah, that slap wheelie over there looked really good. You could do this here and this here, because they don't have a camera outside the truck to watch their own freestyle run as it's happening. And it's very tough to know exactly what looks cool and what doesn't, besides experience being a great teacher, like you were saying, with guys like Rummel and, the crustacean team getting some more experience. Besides experience being the best teacher, having a good, solid set of eyes on the outside is really a good teacher as well.
Oh, absolutely. For so many of these drivers, like you're saying, having that good crew chief or having somebody that's a good teacher in their camp that can kind of guide them in the right direction and tell them subtle little things that maybe others won't see. The common fan doesn't quite understand, hey, you're landing in the throttle a little bit here, or you're dragging the brake a little bit too much there. It's just little subtle things that, either somebody that's really experienced with it and totally knows these trucks inside and out as a crew chief, or another driver, they can point drivers in the right direction and give them that nice little extra tidbit that's going to help improve their driving.
Absolutely. What else do you got, man?
Well, while I was in Benson, North Carolina, saw the Glendale event was happening as well out there in Arizona on the other end of the coast. I wasn't there, of course, but my older brother was. First time my brother got to check out a show in quite some time. So
that's news to me. Let's hear all about it.
It's weird getting text updates from my brother, of all people, who hasn't been to a show in probably like 15 years about the show.
Probably a unique perspective, though. Somebody that hasn't been in it for a while. Yeah, what were his impressions?
He greatly enjoyed it. It's such a, for us, we've been so kind of immersed into this for so long. Over the last 15 years, you and I have been getting to every monster truck show we possibly could, for so long, and working inside the industry that it's kind of hard for us to have that new fan perspective, or disconnected fan perspective, if you will.
Yeah.
But, for him, the first time going to a show, it's a massive difference between now and 15 years ago. You think back, 15 years ago, it was 2002.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Shows are a lot different now. Totally different beast. And, Glendale was an example of a pretty good stadium show, I felt like. There were some good highlights there. Ryan Anderson continuing to kill it every time he's behind the wheel. He's now joining the ranks of his brother, as another Anderson has jumped over a Max D truck.
Yep.
Pretty impressive run from Ryan, as usual, in freestyle. Charlie Pauck and Slap Wheelies are still freaking awesome. I know you're a fan, and I am a massive fan as well.
If you're not a fan of Charlie Pauck or Charlie Pauck and Slap Wheelies, then you're probably not a fan of Burritos. Call back to the last podcast. And you probably shouldn't be watching or listening or whatever you're doing. I'm just saying, you got to appreciate, respect, love, care about Burritos and Slap Wheelies.
I wholeheartedly agree, and I feel like that should be a T-shirt or something. It may not have massive appeal, but
all right, T-shirt companies, we're going for our first sponsor here. T-shirt companies, hit us up. Burritos and Slap Wheelies, Slap Wheelie Burritos, whatever it's gonna be. All right.
I feel like it has a limited appeal, but for about the 12 of us out there,
it's a niche audience.
Yes.
Yeah.
But continuing onward, just some other impressions from Glendale. Enjoyed seeing Eric Swanson's freestyle. That young kid's getting better and better behind the wheel. Truck works pretty well. I like the unique look with the old school Ford body on it too. We haven't really talked too much about that, but they've got a good thing going there. Looking forward to see what Eric can do this coming first quarter. It doesn't have a ton of stadium shows right off the bat, but we'll see what the future holds for him. Also, Lindsey Wink continuing his kind of trend of just really working hard on freestyle this year. You could see it throughout first quarter and then over the summer and now carrying over into the fall events. Wink's getting better and better at freestyle. You can tell it's a focus of his. He's getting a little bit more and more aggressive and really just getting after it. Now if you see Wink in a lineup, you can almost expect him to be the big air of the night kind of guy because he has really sent it on a number of occasions this year and continued on over the next couple of events. But Wink did strong, had another strong outing. Love watching Cody Saucier race and freestyle. While I wasn't in Glendale, I did get to catch him in Houston, and it was kind of more of the same there. Cody is really aggressive with his driving style. He's very fast-paced, has a lot of flow to it. And it's the same thing for his racing as well. He's one of those guys that's not afraid to dirt track the truck around and put it on the edge. Because if you're dirt tracking the truck and you hook a rut or you find that tacky spot in the floor, you're in trouble really quick.
That's a cage hit. And either that or you roll so hard you roll back over, and that's still not cool. Really quickly, Lindsey Wink also is a big fan of Bill Burr, so shouts to him. He probably loves burritos and slap wheelies as well. And I would go out on a limb and say that Cody may listen to the podcast because we were talking about that we love rivalries and that there's not enough of that, and that you don't have to hate each other and get into fights in the pit areas like NASCAR, but I love a good rivalry, and I love that he is doing the rivalry thing and that it's being highlighted with Mr. BJ Johnson.
Yeah, it's a cool little thing there because those guys work together hand in hand at the shop down in Tampa. So they've got their own little playful rivalry going on there, and it's a lot of bragging rights on the line. But those guys definitely want to outdo one another each and every time that they do get the chance to go against one another on the track. Kind of shifting gears a little bit. On I think it was Friday night or Thursday or Friday night whenever I was in Houston, got the chance to kind of just sit around and chit chat with BJ Johnson for a little while and hearing him talk about going back and forth, trading punches a little bit with Cody. And I think it was Laredo, Texas was the weekend before Houston.
Yeah.
And those two were really getting after it, exchanging event wins between one another and contest wins, etc. Those guys were really, having their own little competition within competitions. There's other drivers and trucks there, but those two were really focused on trying to beat one another. And it was fun to kind of hear the back and forth, exchanges and those guys really, pushing one another to try and one up each other. It's cool to hear that.
If we talk about it, when you say Anderson and Mintz, nobody questions what it is. It was a rivalry. It pushed progression of the sport. It pushed better performances. Now it's, LeDuc and Neil Elliott or LeDuc and Wink or that kind of thing. Now it's BJ Johnson and Mr. Saucier. There's a lot of that, and I just want it to keep going like that. I want them to want to beat each other. This is what we wanted in a point series as well. Things are getting a little more streamlined. They're getting better. Things are progressing. Just keep at it, and I think that's a really good niche, a really good thing that is happening within the sport. That just let them be, guys at the top. Just let them continue doing that kind of stuff. It's good for the sport.
Absolutely. I mean, I think genuine rivalries and, just something a little extra to add to kind of not necessarily the storylines, but, even if it is just for us total dorks to follow, it is fun to kind of see. It drums up just a little bit of excitement.
Yeah, definitely. So you got Cody, you got AZ. What was next on the docket for the Dustin Hart Traveling Roadshow?
Well, the next on the docket was actually I was sent out to Vegas to work the Monster Energy Duels, which were a part of the Monster Energy Cup pit party. bit of an interesting experience there. It was a little bummed that I wasn't in Indianapolis to check out the show, and we'll touch base on Indianapolis here in a second. But it was an interesting afternoon for me working that event. Had a couple of monster truck related tie-ins. Our old buddy George Balhan was out there in the Can-Am duels, which was kind of a celebrity race that was happening there in the pit party, and Balhan did pretty good. Ended up finishing second in the Can-Am races to Bilko. A couple other monster truck connections. Casey Curry was the one kind of organizing the event, and for those that are dorky enough to remember and have been paying attention during the time when Robby Gordon was putting together a CRD truck and was eyeing running with Monster Jam, etc. Casey Curry was one of the two people I think that had actually driven that truck before it eventually was sold and became Bigfoot 19. But
Yep.
So Casey's got a little bit of monster truck experience. He drove Robby Gordon's truck before it was eventually sold, and he's also done some field testing with Monster Jam as well. Cool dude, and was putting together a cool little event there with all of the pro lights, and, some of the guys from the short course industry. Also got to meet and talk to Diesel Dave and Heavy D from the Diesel Brothers. As so many of you know, they're getting involved with Monster Jam this year.
Can we maybe? I gotta say it. You know what I'm gonna say too, don't you? Can we maybe? I've seen a few videos. Can we maybe talk to them a little bit about letting off that throttle right at the top of the jump? Because, man, that looked brutal. I hope they're okay. And I mean, it sounds like I'm just being a jerk, but, man, those couple of nosedives that they showed off of those guys snapping those trucks up, man, that looked rough. Like, you got somebody, I hope that and I'm sure that it did, because, everybody's out there watching them. That was brutal on equipment. I know it was brutal on the body because you don't have any sort of suspension when you land on the front tie rod. And, yeah, that just... I hope somebody was like, look, you cannot do that again. Because that's going to suck for the crew guys. It's going to suck for them. They're going to hurt themselves. So I hope that things go better. They got Colt Stevens out there getting ready to drive, I'm assuming, the majority of that tour. But they're making it seem like those guys are going to run as well.
Yeah. I was able to talk to Diesel Dave and Heavy D a little bit here and there. Both guys seem to be pretty cool. I spent a little bit more time talking to Diesel Dave, and came across to me as a pretty humble guy, very easygoing. And those guys are, excited about anything to do with motors, and so then being with Monster Jam, it's kind of a natural fit. Curious to see what will come with the BURRITOS truck. I mean, I'm really excited to see Colt Stevens continue driving because he's awesome. We've discussed Colt Stevens a ton here, so I don't want to go too far with that. But
yeah,
those guys definitely could use a little bit of refining. If you haven't seen the clips of them field testing, yeah, there's some ouchy moments in there. There's definitely some nosedives. Definitely putting their belts to work.
for sure. I applaud the aggressiveness, so don't take that the wrong way, guys. If you're listening, or anybody else, don't take that the wrong way. Because my monster truck, it ran like crap today. I'm here to tell you, because it didn't run. I'm just saying. It's
more of a figment of your imagination.
Right, dude. Like, man, it ran terrible. But it seriously, like, it was a bit of a problem for me watching that. Because, I mean, man, I hope that they rein that in. And I can remember the first time Pastrana was given a chance to run. El Toro Loco had to be back-halved afterwards. So, I mean, there is that whole familiarity with things with motors. And that's all well and fine, but then they realize quickly a monster truck is like a mechanical bull on wheels turned up to the highest setting that is guaranteed to buck you off if you screw around. So it's like, I just want them to be safe. I don't want to see anybody get hurt, especially when there's a chance to have some more outside influence and some kind of cross-promotion, some mutual respect for equipment and stuff, hopefully. So I would like to see that. The other thing is, with diesel-powered trucks, I mean, we have actually seen the original Diesel Dave, Red Zeros, have some pretty decent runs and some moderate success with a diesel-powered truck. I'm just interested to see how this thing's going to work when you pit it up against a regular truck. I don't know the specifics. I'm not an engineering major. I don't know how to math. But I am interested in what it took to get there and how it's going to run. Is Stevens really going to be on the same plane as these guys mechanically? That's kind of running through my mind.
Yeah, I would imagine, Monster Jam doesn't want to bring out a truck, that's, got this kind of celebrity attached to it, if you will, with the Diesel Brothers name to it. I very seriously doubt that they're going to come out to the floor with a truck that's not quite on par in terms of power and competitiveness. So I imagine there's some hard work being done to try and get this, whatever they're running for a diesel setup, and me trying to, come up with or elaborate anything at all in terms of motor knowledge is a bad idea, because I'm blissfully ignorant of how to set up and build a motor by any means. So that's why I will talk to guys like Richard Midget and get their feedback.
Yes.
But with that being said, I imagine there's a lot of testing being taken place, and just trying to do everything they can to make sure that it's on a level playing field with the rest of the trucks. And I'm just as curious, I think, as anybody to see what they have done different, what they have come up with differently for
did you
their
get a
motor
chance
setup.
To really talk to them a lot about that, about any of that sort of thing, or was it
Not
just kind of basic stuff?
Not really. It was more just a, hey, how are you? And discussing the event at hand, and, basically saying, hey, what are you guys looking at for shows next year? And said, well, we're hoping to get into a few.
Okay.
Question is, will that happen during first quarter? Will that be stadium appearances? Will it be arena appearances? Will it be post first quarter? There's a lot going on there, and I imagine that they'll want to have that truck in some premier events, if you will, and have that thing get some airtime, literally and figuratively. And it'll be an interesting pairing to see how that grows in the future, because while I've never really watched the show myself, it's immensely popular. I think it's pretty clear, and the diesel truck scene is really growing across the country. So there's an untapped market there, I guess you can say. And there's something there's some good or some popularity or some exposure to come from all of that.
Definitely. Yeah, totally agree with you there. So that kind of pushes us slightly towards Indianapolis, I believe.
Yes. So while I happen to be in Vegas and dealing with the Monster Energy duels, I was still getting updates from some friends and stuff like that, and came home and was able to check out some stuff on Indy. It looked like a great show, despite the ridiculous number of rollovers and recoveries that were taking place during the course of the night. Just a few highlights that I took away from watching stuff from the event. Becky McDonough keeps getting better and better behind the wheel of a truck. She was really getting after it a couple of different times in her freestyle run, really pushing the truck in some big air. Looking forward to seeing Becky continue on first quarter. She didn't get a ton of hype this first quarter. She was kind of flying under the radar without being on the TV tour this year, but she keeps getting better. She's looking more and more comfortable in the truck.
Sometimes that's better, though. I gotta say, I feel like, and again, my monster truck ran like crap, so you guys know, it's just from talking to people and experiences, being on the road and things like that. Sometimes it's better not to have that pressure, if you will, of knowing the TV cameras are on, and that, if you go out there and roll first hit, it's going to be on TV in a few weeks, and people are going to have this impression. Versus, okay, not that you would back off at all, but just, hey, now I can relax just a little bit, have some fun with this, learn, and not be afraid of falling on my face. Try some things. How does the sport progress? Well, people have to try stuff and see if it works. And when you're trying it on the biggest stage versus maybe just a little bit step down kind of thing, and you get a whole first quarter to kind of get some more seat time in a lower pressure environment, by the time you're ready for that bright stage, you saw it with her run in Vegas, all of a sudden everybody goes, what? I didn't think she was going to do that. Well, she's been doing it all first quarter. You just haven't seen it. So that's kind of I think it's a good thing that maybe she didn't have that pressure.
Yeah, and she the more and more seat time she gets, I think the better. And it's kind of a tough transition, going from having dedicated so much time and energy the first year of the arena tour. They were in that for so long, it's kind of hard to adjust back. And there were flashes of brilliance in the 2016 FS1 Championship Series. Some of her runs were great. There were also some nights that, well, she would probably not really want to add to her highlight reel, because there were some one-hit wonders in the mix. But then, it capped off, the end of that year with the freestyle win in her last stadium event of the season in her home state, Minneapolis. And, she kept that up over the course of first quarter. She got after it in a number of those stadiums. I want to say, I remember Oakland was a really great run. I think Toronto was another one of those. And she's getting better and better. So, kudos to Becky for keeping after it. And, she's the first one to admit when she hasn't had the best night. But, she's definitely trying. You got to give her credit for that. And, the results are coming through. Another note, I guess you could say, from Indianapolis, bummed to see Jim Koehler having some bad luck over the course of these couple of stadium shows. It was kind of the same deal for him in Houston as well. Ended up breaking only like 2 hits into his freestyle in Indianapolis. Wasn't able to keep going. And Houston lost something in the rear end and really didn't get to go but so far into his freestyle run. I want to see that new chassis unleashed again in a big Monster Jam stadium floor, because I have seen that truck push to the limits, in other settings. Vegas was, the massive and stunning unveiling, but, Koehler really, has continued to run hard with it all year long. I was able to see him in Bridgeport, New Jersey, and Koehler killed it that weekend. That truck was working fantastic, huge air all weekend long, just a ton of fun. So I know that truck is capable of great things. It's just kind of a bummer that the first time we get to see it back on a Monster Jam Stadium environment, it kind of had some just weird, funky little gremlins creep up. Because, we've seen what Koehler can do with the old truck and the high motor setup, and just the truck just didn't work quite the same as, what some of the competition has to offer. So, now that he's kind of in a truck that's more like the rest of the field, if you will, I want to see what Koehler can come up with. And I know you're kind of in the same boat as well.
Now it's weird to say this, but I feel like Kohler's biggest opponent is his equipment holding up. Not that it's bad equipment, because it's the most stout equipment in the industry. It's just luck. He's just been having some bad luck. Everybody goes through those streaks. He will figure it out. His team will figure it out. And once they do, get back and stay back. But have a camera in your hand, because I was so proud, so impressed, so happy for him in Vegas, because he didn't win, but if that tire holds up and a couple other things go his way, he's there. And every time his equipment holds up, he's there. He's got a shot at the victory, and that's all you can really ask for with how stout the fields are most of the time. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. It's a little disappointing, but probably about time with all the freestyle wins Ryan Anderson's been ripping off to see him just take a dive early. He makes his living on 2 wheels nowadays, it seems, and he finally did take a tumble. You just kind of get used to him being so feather light on the throttle, so lead tough when he needs to be, but having total control all the time, even though it looks out of control. All of a sudden he just took a tumble, and hey, they stepped up. Everybody's ready. If one truck falters, the other one's there. Cool to see. Just a little bit of a surprise to see him kind of be a little out of rhythm, I guess, and toss one over early.
Yeah, well, and then, like you're saying, the rest of the competition stepping up. You look at some of the runs that happened earlier in the night, with buddy Morgan Kane, our buddy Morgan Kane as well. Shout out Morgan Kane.
Hey, them transitions, though. Keep doing that, Morgan. You better be listening to this. I'm telling you right now, those transitions were sweet.
Yes. Morgan's run was fantastic. We're talking about the hit, going from the jammer stacker over the jackrabbit, pod, if you will. That was a huge hit, and plenty of other huge air hits from Morgan during the course of the run. Plenty of good momentum, and great flow to his freestyle run.
Speaks to a guy with comfort in his equipment. You can see he's really starting to send it now. Knows the truck's not going to hurt him. Knows he has good crew behind him, and the truck has been beaten around, for lack of better words, for the better part of a year. So, hey, go ahead and send that thing. You can see his comfort levels rising in the truck. Yeah,
and then, going back to talking about Lindsey Wink, we were saying earlier and how he's stepping up his freestyle game. Indianapolis was another prime example. Comes away with the freestyle win. The overall event win went ridiculously huge a few times over the hybrid pod, if you will. Wink's really getting after it. He wants to win. I think he wants to make a statement that this past season wasn't a fluke. And, he wants to keep proving that, not only is he a great driver, but, he wants to be considered amongst the elite, if you will, of the Monster Jam ranks. And he's knocking on the door, that's for sure. And you got to think that, for whatever tour that he's, on this coming season, he's going to be a threat to win. He's kind of not on the main tour, I guess, if you will, or the main TV tour. And, it's kind of surprising because Wink's been there for the last few years, and he's coming off of defending the East Championship. He's looked great all season long, and, the last few freestyles have been just awesome.
It's an interesting catch-22 to me. I think you, as a promoter, you have a couple of conflicting ideas, right? You want to have this point series where you're making stars on TV. The thing that Porter and Anderson and some of the other guys earlier in the Penda days did not have to contest with was there wasn't another simultaneous Penda point series running. There wasn't, a show this, that, there, the other, and a bunch of mouths to feed, for lack of better terms. And this time, this setup, there are separate point series and also markets to consider that get yearly shows, right? So you don't want to send, just speaking from a promoter and not from a point series standpoint, you may not want to send the same group of trucks out there and risk the show becoming stale, even if it's a good show, and you want the different markets to be able to see Charlie Puck, and maybe he goes to Indianapolis one year and he doesn't come back for another 2 or 3 years, and so on and so forth with every other driver. When you start grouping them together and sending them on tours, then that becomes a problem because, okay, well, if I can't put Charlie Puckett in Indianapolis and Indianapolis is on the TV tour, what do I do now? So that's kind of the problem. That it's a good problem to have, but seeing that kind of thing with Wink is disappointing because there's no Around the USHRA segment anymore. What are you going to do to spotlight that this guy's over here running this series besides the end of season reviews?
Yeah, and, for Wink, like I said, he's been on the main TV tour for the last few years and has kind of been a staple of it. I think he's been one of the only drivers to have been on all three. Yeah. So, I think you do have to kind of change things up, for the TV viewer in order to keep things from being stale. But at the same time, it's tough to kind of take, one of the tour champions out of the picture, if you will. And then again, we also don't know exactly how the TV, scheduling is going to plan out. But from what I understand, his tour isn't going to be one of the TV ones, but that's always subject to change. But yeah, you have to kind of change things up. But, we saw it happen, a couple years back when Neil Elliott won the tour championship and then wasn't on it the next year. So, it would be cool to be able to see some variety and some different stuff, as an option for viewing when it comes to, the upcoming season, because I'm curious to see how the TV scheduling and everything is going to play out.
I got to be honest with you. I don't understand why, and I mean, maybe I do deep down, but I don't want to understand why you don't make one or two bigger tours in quotation marks as far as the point series just being connected. They used to have an East Coast and a West Coast thing. That's something they do in motocross. Just something to think about, guys. Just something to think about.
Well, and, we saw a little bit of that, but I'm not entirely sure if we're going to see the same for this coming year. Last year we had kind of the splits with the FS1 East, FS1 West, but there hasn't really been any kind of clear labeling as to what tours are what, or if anything is going to be a specific TV tour.
If there's 7 separate tours, I want to know which ones are a part of the East group, which ones are a part of the West group, which ones are arena. Give me a segment. I know that the Cleveland Cavaliers are in the Eastern Conference and they need to make the top 8 to be able to be in the playoffs, right? I know that San Antonio Spurs are in the Western Conference and need to make the top 8 to make the playoffs. There needs to be a little more stringency there. But I understand why. There are sponsor exemptions and stuff like that. At the same time, if we're going to have a point series, ...
Yeah. So, kind of continuing on, just some more thoughts. Lee O'Donnell had a pretty solid freestyle run out there in Indy as well. For O'Donnell, it's got to be an interesting position to be in, defending the World Finals Freestyle Championship as a guy that is a racer. I mean, he said it as much when he was on the podcast with us before. He's always kind of considered himself as a racer, and now he's got this added pressure of, hey, I'm the defending World Finals Freestyle champion.
Hey, man, it was the Oil World Finals out there. Lucas Oil Stadium, VP Racing Fuels, and then we got Lucas Oil Crusader. There was probably some competition back there.
Yeah, and with the way that, carrying in, this title, and all of these expectations after he won the World Finals Freestyle Championship, it's kind of a little bit of a pressure, one of these guys, the first year, Cretan ran after winning his freestyle championship, and saw a little added pressure, a little added excitement to his name, if you will, putting him out later in the freestyle runs, or, some weekends he was the closer of freestyle. And, that's a tough spot to be thrown in when you kind of see yourself as a racer and haven't really, had freestyle as the main focus of your career. And that's not knocking either of those guys' freestyle abilities, because they both can turn in great freestyle runs. But, we know them more for being predominantly focused on racing. We see them more as racing aces. And, yeah, they can still turn in a good freestyle run and can definitely win on good nights. But, you still more expect the cutthroat freestyle guys to kind of go out there and knock those guys back to third and fourth in the rankings when it comes to freestyle. But, that's going to be an interesting thing to kind of follow and see how Lee continues to, attack being the freestyle champ. He's definitely working on it and trying hard to, improve his freestyle runs. They're trying some different things and, trying to work in slap wheelies and, just approach things a little bit differently than everybody else, instead of just, this crazy high momentum assault, if you will.
Lee strikes me as a very technical guy, even though he is very loquacious. He is also technical. I think that fits his style. He is a racer at heart. He told us as much on this very podcast. But having the passion for winning sometimes makes you want to have that passion for freestyle. I like seeing that. I think Lee will do just fine. He always does, and has traditionally put on outstanding performances no matter where he goes. So that pretty much puts a bookend on the show aspect for me. I did want to get to a couple people's comments from the YouTube stuff if you feel good about the rest of it.
Well, just to kind of run through Houston real quick.
Oh, crap. See? There's so many shows every time. Like, there's 8 Houston shows and 9 Indianapolis shows and 12 Tampa shows. All right, I'm just kidding, but seriously.
Well, I still got 2 more shows, brother.
My goodness, how many shows did you go to, Dustin?
I was busy every weekend.
Okay, well then, I'm going to shut up and let Dustin talk. Go ahead.
Yeah, shut up. Dude, Houston was a good time. It was a pretty solid show from top to bottom. Racing was pretty exciting. Saw some guys really getting after it. A lot of dirt tracking going on. Cody Saucier, running out the back door. He's always fun to watch run racing. We had another double rollover race. I want to say second round matchup. Lindsey Wink and Tom Mentz. Both guys found themselves on their lids in spectacular fashion. Mentz hitting the second jump. Truck was a little out of shape, didn't hit it square, goes tumbling over, somehow manages to put the truck between the dumpster and the wall in the far corner. Meanwhile, Wink doesn't know what happens in the other lane, comes around for his final hit, standing on the throttle, thinking there's a good possibility Mentz is close by and then in the other lane. Wink, similar fashion, doesn't hit the ramp square. This time he sends his truck more towards the inside of the track and does a spectacular tumble, cartwheel, back on all fours, and drives the truck off the floor. They get it fixed back up, and Wink comes back from looking like he probably wasn't going to make the next round and maybe not even be back for freestyle. Wink comes back and wins racing. So that was pretty wild. That was fun to follow over the course of the night. Let's see, Jamie Garner had a fantastic freestyle breakout performance for him in Houston. Great run, a lot of big air. Nailed his first backflip, ended up finishing second to Ryan Anderson. anytime that you can finish second to Ryan Anderson in freestyle, that's a statement. And the fact that he was able to drive the truck on the trailer at the end of the night, can't say the same about some of the other competitors that finished high. Look no further than Ryan Anderson's truck. I mean, that thing was in a ball of fire by the time he was over and done with. No pun intended.
I've always wanted a special rule just for one show that if you roll over, you're disqualified. And I want to see who wins.
That would be interesting, because that could definitely would definitely play like some kind of psychological role in the back of some of these guys' mind, I feel like. But,
exactly.
But yeah, Garner, props to those guys. They put together a fantastic showing there. Awesome freestyle run. Lindsey Wink again with a killer freestyle run. Probably big air of the night from him. Really got after it. Was able to take away another overall event championship. Cody Saucier was plenty of fun to watch in racing. I think I already said that, but had a killer save in his freestyle run as well. Morgan King kind of continued on from Indianapolis with another great run. He's really looking more and more comfortable in the stadium environment after spending so much time in arenas over the last few years. A lot of fun in Houston. I always enjoy getting to go down to Houston. I've been lucky enough to go down there several times over the last few years, and it was really great to see Energy Stadium packed after everything that has happened, and as well as everything that was going on in Houston at the same time, because you're coming off of everything that had happened with Hurricane Harvey. Definitely some spots in that area that got destroyed.
Beautiful venue, beautiful show, and the Monster Jam crew made sure to go and pay tribute to some of the people that were helping out during the hurricane. You can see that on Monster Jam's website as well.
Yeah, 2,000 tickets I think went out to first responders and in the area and stuff like that. But kind of continue on with how good Houston is for monster trucks and Monster Jam in general. That building was sold out on a night that the Houston Astros were in Game 6 of the ALCS, or Game 7 even, if I remember correctly. They were in Game 7. There was the Houston Rockets home opener that night. There was a University of Houston football game the night before. There were concerts in the area. There was a lot of stuff happening in Houston. And in some of the other markets where they had done fall shows weren't selling out, Houston was packed. Standing room only sellout. So that was really cool to see. Glad to see that Houston bounced back strong from everything that had happened. And, glad to see that an off weekend, I guess, if you will, the not normal date for Monster Jam in that area still did great.
That's outstanding, man. Couldn't have said it better myself. And that's Houston having so many shows during a year. I joke about it, but I think it's great. The fact that you can go and have quality entertainment if you're a family from the Houston area and count on Monster Jam a few times a year. Hey, maybe you're taken away from some of those other more expensive ventures. Even with the rising ticket prices, I would say, of Monster Jam and Monster Trucks. I still remember going to a Cincinnati Bengals football game and just feeling like, man, this is it? And I paid how much? I don't think that you're going to get that feeling very many times, hopefully, if you go watch the Monster Trucks. So that's great.
Yeah, and just to wrap up from my crazy busy October, this past weekend in Julia, North Carolina, last Monster Truck Throwdown event of the year was kind of a special event. It was the Halloween-themed Monster Mash. Monster Throwdown's second visit to Piedmont Dragway this year. Really fun time, always is, with the Throwdown crew, as I said earlier. Got the chance to see the debut of Bad Company, driven by our good buddy John Gordon. You've heard me talk about John Gordon a few times over the last few podcasts, and John's finally getting to step up into the monster truck driver role. He's been a crew chief for the past few years, as well as a mega truck driver. I was totally confident that John was going to do well whenever he got the chance to jump behind the wheel of a full-size monster, and he proved me exactly right. So far, John Gordon, undefeated monster truck racer. We'll see how long that lasts.
I just hope he's I picture him sidling up next to Ryan Anderson, right, and being like, "So Ryan, what's your racing record this year?" Not undefeated.
There's been plenty of that going on, I'm sure. But yeah, John's already, he's looking very comfortable behind the wheel of the truck. Friday night, put on a pretty good freestyle run. You could tell he was still feeling it out a little bit. He had a little bit of seat time in the truck before coming into the show, a little bit of testing. But for the most part, it's his first real full-on action and getting to hit some stuff other than some dirt jumps. And he did great Friday night. And you could tell he was feeling out the truck a little bit, but wasn't doing anything lame by any means. He was still putting on a good show. Saturday night was a little bit more aggressive. Went a little too hard his first hit in freestyle. Backside of the Jackrabbit, massive hit. Truck kind of side slapped a little bit, blew out an O-ring in the front steering, and sent the truck up on its side. He was able to save it, but that killed the front steering, unfortunately, as they, have said on their social media. 10-cent part cost them a freestyle, but they've got a great piece there. It's the former Hooligan truck built by Gary Schott Jr. Those guys are going to keep working on that thing and making it even better. Super clean looking truck, awesome design on it. That's a good bunch there coming out of Georgia. From what I understand, they've got another truck in the works. So that's going to be a fantastic two-truck team to watch in the future because John's going to be a great driver. I'm not sure who they've got in the ranks waiting to be the second truck driver.
Yeah, Gary Schott, man, got to meet him out in Vegas a few years back, and was a real nice dude, real outstanding. I liked watching Terminator run, and I liked the involvement that they have with that. That's good information right there on a podcast.
Yeah, so a little bummed to see Gary had to give up the truck. He's a very busy guy with some of his work adventures and everything like that. He built a top-notch piece. When Hooligan debuted, it was a beautiful truck. And thankfully, it still is a beautiful truck in its new identity with Bad Company. And Gary didn't mess around when he built that truck. He took his time, was very meticulous with it, and put together a lot of great parts. Was able to get all these parts and pieces together, build a fantastic truck. These guys have got it now, and they were lucky enough to find this great truck and be able to put it to work and add it to their stable. I imagine from the way that these guys came in and approached the event, they're going to continue to keep that truck in just as great shape and just as good condition and perform with it just as hard. So looking forward to see what they come up with in the future with that whole bunch out of Georgia. Like I said, if they get to expand to a two-truck team, which I understand is in the plans, they'll be somebody to watch, whether they compete on the independent circuit or eventually make the jump over to Monster Jam or however. They're going to come at it 110% guns and blazing, so they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. Matt Pagliarulo and Jester, awesome dude, always. The whole Pagliarulo gang, the Jester camp, always enjoy getting to see them. Really looking forward to see them over the course of first quarter. They did great in Julian. Pagliarulo is so much fun to watch in freestyle. He's kind of like Florida Greg Witchenbach almost.
There you go.
Even the truck sounds a little bit like Crustacean. Matt's not afraid to go big, but I also like to see that he does big dumb wheelies, kind of like that big dumb lobster.
Yes.
He on Friday night rode out a slap wheelie about into the woods, so that was sweet. As we alluded to earlier, burritos and slap wheelies. We are fans of those things.
It's like what do they say? What do they say? Crab cakes in football. That's what we do. Yeah, burritos and slap wheelies, man.
That's what AllMonster's all about.
That's right.
Yeah, so the Pagliarulo bunch, they're great. Such a fun family, and that is a true family affair there. The whole gang was in town, hanging out, working on the truck. Matt's son Nick even got a little bit of time after the show was over and done with to kind of hit some of the freestyle jumps, get a little bit of seat time. And, if they ever, find themselves expanding to a two-truck operation, that kid's got a future there. He's already got a decent grasp of driving the truck. You just have to kind of refine the skills a little bit. Enjoy getting to see Roy Pridgeon for the first time in a while. Haven't seen Roy run in action, myself in a couple of years.
Yeah.
But Roy's an underrated driver, kind of like a Brian Wright, in that he is the second driver on a team, and the lead guy kind of gets a little bit of the attention. But Roy's no slouch behind the wheel of a truck. He's a really good driver, not afraid to go big, knows how to kind of ride that fine line and not go too hard, and still keep things together and put on a good show and respect the equipment. Roy had a little bit of issues with the rear steer kind of not wanting to center like it should. It was kind of having a mind of its own a little bit, but you could tell he was fighting it a little bit, but to the untrained eye, to that casual fan, they may not have even known that anything was wrong. But to those of us that are a little bit more aware and paying attention to things, he was having to manually center the truck and this and that and the other, but he was still putting on a good show, getting some big air, and running the old ice cream man hard.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, just to explain it, expand a little bit, because all experience levels of monster truck fandom are welcome here. Usually when you have rear steer set up, you hit a little toggle switch back and forth to the left or the right, depending on how you set the truck up. That'll turn the rear steering all the way one way. It will automatically self-center. Now imagine trying to do that manually, and it's 3 times as hard. So yeah, much respect to him. It's already very, very hard just to drive a monster truck and park it. Let me tell you, yeah, it's not easy. One other thing, if it's the main impressions from the season that was in Monster Truck Throwdown?
The season was in Monster Truck Throwdown was just a lot of laughs, a good amount of food consumed, and good times.
Excellent. That's all we like to hear. Final little note that I wanted to get to. Did notice Gravedigger at Sema. I see what you guys did. Gravedigger 35 debuts at Sema to celebrate 35 years of Gravedigger. Pretty good.
Yeah.
I like it. Thing looks beautiful. Adam Anderson's out there signing autographs, and I did catch just a little bit of reading about this, that it's making its competitive debut in 2018. I have no freaking idea who is driving that truck. Dustin?
I think, if I remember correctly, that will be handed over to Adam Anderson. So Adam with a brand new piece going into first quarter. That could be something interesting to watch during first quarter.
Yeah, that's scary. Adam's beat the crap out of his other one enough. It's been the legend and all that other stuff. He's been through the ringer with trucks, man, now that I think about it. Because he's not really gotten a fresh piece for quite some time now. So
yeah, I mean, the last time he got a new truck, it's been, 3 or 4 years maybe? I don't know. But, I mean, in Anderson years, that's like having a truck for 12.
Like we were saying the other time, that's dog years for crew chiefs and for equipment. That's like 18 years. No, it's definitely been run a lot. So that's great to see him get a fresh piece of equipment. Imagine him and Koehler dueling it out. That'll be something to behold. But
well, I mean, you look at that tour lineup, and we kind of already talked about it in the last podcast. But you look at the lineup that they've got together for this tour this year. You've got Adam, Neil, Todd LeDuc, Koehler. You got the Sims camp. You got Shane England with Kahuna. That's that's an up and coming team to watch right there.
Yeah.
Jerry McNeil and Roy Pridgeon, like we were just talking about Roy. Brianna Mahant. That's a stacked tour. I don't know.
Yeah, Brianna with the new identity too. That's going to be something to think about. I mean, yeah.
That's a stupid good lineup for 7 weekends of stadiums. That's going to be fun to watch. And Jester.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Also, stupid big slap.
I can't leave out my boy Matt.
There you go.
Yeah, dude, that's stupid good lineup to have for 7 weekends in a row. I'm really going to enjoy watching that this winter.
Well, stupid good lineup. I hope you guys enjoyed the Stupid Good podcast. I'm going to wrap things up.
I don't know about that good word.
What? Stupid great, stupid wonderful, stupid excellent. Whatever.
Yeah, okay, we'll leave it at that.
It's wicked sick.
Wicked.
Yeah. I hope that you guys do enjoy listening to us ramble on about monster trucks. I think in the next episode, we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of your comments. I really did enjoy reading the comment section a lot of the last podcast that we did. So make sure you guys are leaving all your questions, all your comments in the comment section of the YouTube video. If you're on Twitter, you can follow us there and get any sort of questions that you want answered. Feel free to hit us up. It's the AllMonster. You can follow us on Instagram at AllMonster. And, of course, YouTube is AllMonster Videos. And I think that you can get all of your questions together, throw them at us, and we'll make the next podcast, episode number 15, pending a few, perhaps, guests, all about answering your questions. If not, then we'll save that one for 16. But we have a few drivers coming down the pipe. We're going to see what's going on.
Yeah, we're gonna see if we can get a hold of some people. We've had some contacts. Looking forward to kind of reaching out and connecting with a few guys. As everybody knows, we're kind of in first quarter prep for some of these guys. So, for those that are busy tinkering and working on the trucks, they they tend to stay busy this time of year. But we've had a few folks reach out to us, and we're going to reach back out to them and try and line some things up. So hopefully we can bring you some cool guests. Otherwise, you just have to listen to Robby and I talk. And I know that's unpleasant for you all, but, it is what it is.
Judging by the comments, all 15 of the people that listen to this podcast are really happy. So, hey, thanks, guys. We do appreciate it. It does mean a lot. Yeah.
To that 15, get yourself a burrito and let us know what you think.
All right, we're going to slap Wheelie on out of here, maybe eat a burrito. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Make sure you're dropping a like on the video, leaving a subscription, or just following us on whatever podcast service you deem worthy of your time and attention. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.